Speaking of other baffling things and other asinine things that somebody's trying to push here, Meta announces new policies and safeguards for 2022 midterms modeled after the 2020 policies. Speaking of Orwellian, here we go again, folks. Here we go again with this whole election shenanigans happening. They know it's coming. They know there's a red wave. I call it the red tsunami. And now they're going to do everything they can to limit your capacity and your ability to get news out there. Check this out. Pay attention because it impacts all of you. Facebook is still utilized a lot to get speech out there. Facebook is a lot larger company and technology that's utilized during elections to get information out there to the public. So this has an impact on all of us. If they're going to do this, can you imagine what Twitter's going to do? Twitter's doing some shenanigans over there as well, folks. So this plays in the hand of Google, Facebook, all the big tech that's going to affect you and I as conservatives and Republicans. So listen up. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, announced its own set of policies and safeguards to political discourse ahead of the 2022 midterms. In a blog post Tuesday, Meta announced that it would implement a series of policies to be used in the 2022 midterm elections, policies that are consistent with the same policies the platform used during the 2022 election. Those policies include, here's a little bit of a list, preventing election and voter interference, connecting people with reliable information, and transparency around elections and advertising. This is some Orwellian stuff, folks. Basically, if we want to just put this in a nutshell, kind of wrap it up with a nice bow on top with what they're going to do, they're going to dictate what is truth and what is false. They're going to dictate what is real, what is reliable, and what isn't. That should scare all of you. That is literally from the playbook of George Orwell's 1984. We saw it happen in 2020. It's going to happen in 2022. So be ready to get your speech suppressed by Facebook, removed or flagged, even though you say something that is 100% truth, 100% verifiably truth, has the possibility of being removed, has the possibility of being flagged, has all sorts of possibilities. And this is just Facebook. Can you imagine Twitter? Can you imagine what the hell they're going to do over there? With the 2022 US midterms on the horizon, we're setting out how our approach applies in this election cycle, which is largely consistent with the policies and safeguards we had in place during the 2020 US presidential election, which everybody hated. Nobody liked it other than the Democrats and the progressive left because they got their way. They got to say asinine things. There's Republicans and conservatives that say asinine things. I'm sure there's people on here that think I say asinine things. We all got a right to say it, but they're only going to suppress our speech. They're only going to suppress conservatives and Republican speech in favor of Democrats and progressive left so they can get their message out where we can't get our message out in the hopes that people vote Democrat rather than Republican. Our approach to the 2022 U.S. midterms applies learnings from the 2020 election cycle and exceeds the measures we implemented during the last midterm. Oh, well, isn't that just fun? Hey, not only did we learn everything, but hey, we're actually going to go above and beyond. This is going to be so terrible. This includes advanced security operations to fight foreign interference in domestic influence campaigns. Look, I'm all for that, but that whole push of the Russian collusion, this whole Russian thing happening on the 2020 election, they're still touting that whole thing, which is amazing, right? Because these are the ones that are supposed to be preventing election and voter interference and basically quantifying and authorizing what's reliable information, what isn't, from the same company that's still pushing this whole Russia collusion, Russian whole voter push and helping people swing the election in favor of the Republic, all that. They're still pushing it, but they're supposed to be the ones that are going to judge what's reliable information. It's been debunked, you guys. The whole Russia thing's been debunked. It's old, it's wrong, it's false, and they're still going to push it. This includes advanced security operations to fight first foreign interference and domestic influence campaigns, which we said, our network of independent fact-checker partners or fact-checking partners. Come on. I'm laughing because it's batshit crazy. I mean, I've coined that term batshit crazy. Let's be honest, folks. This is what that is. And they're going to be the independent, okay? This is their words. Independent fact-checking partners. We all know how that goes. It's not independent at all. Just change that word independent with democratic and you'll probably be more accurate. Our industry-leading transparency measures around political advertising and pages, as well as new measures to help keep poll workers safe. Okay. All righty. Under the heading, Preventing Election and Voter Interference, Meta touted its existing policies around removing hate speech. I told you, they're the ones that are going to be the freaking, the arbiters of truth. They're the ones that are going to sit there and be the councils of truth. And so basically you could say something that's not even intended to be hate speech. Somebody took it the wrong way and now you're removed. we got Lucy on. I don't know if Lucy watches the show, but Lucy is somebody that I've connected with over TikTok, and her other gal, her other girlfriend, her friend, keep getting their TikToks removed because of hate speech, because they say something that offended somebody. And so what's stopping this from happening on Twitter? What's stopping this happening on Facebook, where you say something, somebody gets offended of it because some idiot doesn't have thick skin, and you get banned and removed. It's a crazy time we're living in, where people are removing hate speech. What the hell is hate speech? You could say something that's so freaking PG-13, not even offending somebody. You could say, "Oh, it's raining outside." Somebody could take that offensive. "I hate rain. I'm allergic to water. Water makes me itchy." Some stupid crap like that, and then you get freaking banned. I know it's an asinine analogy, but I'm sure it's even happened. That's how crazy the progressive left are. Well, this is noting that it already banned 270 white supremacist organizations and removed more than 2.5 million posts for hate speech in just the first quarter of 2022. I'm not a fan of white supremacy. I'm not a fan of racism. I don't like them at all. I don't want a single one of them to watch my show. I don't want them to subscribe. I don't like white supremacists at all. So, am I for them being banned? No. The reason why is because people have a right to say what they want to say, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. If you're a Democrat, I will support your right to free speech. If you're a progressive leftist, I will support your right to free speech. If you're a freaking idiot, evil, white supremacist person, I will support your right to free speech. Whatever it is, you have the right to say whatever the hell you want to say. If somebody gets offended, that's their damn problem. But I think speech is so important that you can beat out falsehoods. You can beat out evil with truth. That comes obviously from Judeo-Christian values, but truth will always win. Truth will always set you free. You doing this is just putting everybody in a prison hold. It's not good for the country. It's not good for Americans. The company then touted its relationships with state and local election officials, federal agencies, and industry peers. Well, isn't that just fun? Not a private company anymore, a public company just getting mixed up with election officials and just the government. That's a recipe for success, folks, isn't it? Don't you just trust what's happening there over at Facebook when now they're working in conjunction with the government? But they're the arbiters of truth, guys. They're going to tell you what's reliable. They're going to tell you and flag you and make sure that you know what is actually facts, because it's coming from independent fact checkers, you guys. You're supposed to trust all this stuff. It went on to outline its content removal policies, as was the case in the U.S. in 2020. Election-related content will remove includes misinformation about the dates, locations, times, methods of voting, misinformation who can vote, whether a vote will be counted, and qualifications for voting, and calls for violence related to voting, voter registration, or the administration or outcome of an election. We will reject ads encouraging people not to vote or calling into question the legitimacy of the upcoming election. So you can have voter fraud, like actual legit voter fraud, and you say something about it, it's going to get removed. That's literally in part what they're saying here, which happened in 2020. Literally dead people voted. It's verifiable. It's not a fake thing. I'm not saying that would swing the election. It is real. It did happen. You can't talk about it. This portion of the video might get flagged. We might not even get advertising on this portion of the video because we're talking about that. Literally people voted from addresses that didn't exist. The address itself existed. There was no building. I mean, you were literally out in the middle of the desert. There was some places that were literally would put you onto a freeway. There's no house. Like you would just be standing on a freeway and somehow people voted from that address. Explain to me how that is going to be removed when it is verifiably you could fact check it yourself. It's one of those things where literally you could take the registry from that locality, from that state, and go stand there yourself and actually take a freaking photo of the place, and you would still get removed from it. That's how crazy all this stuff is. We live, it's such a non-American milieu, a social fabric, that it's so freaking mind-bending. If people want to believe crazy things, they're going to believe crazy things, okay? Even though you try to remove it off Facebook, they're going to find other avenues of trying to search and seek out those crazy things. And you got to love it too, because the same people that want to remove the crazy things also try to keep sending you crazy things for you to indulge yourself with. So if you're like super into aliens or whatever, right? Whatever it may be. I'm just picking a thing because we talk about aliens on Supernatural Saturdays. Check out Supernatural Saturdays if you haven't. Then if you're into that and you want to indulge into that, then Google's going to have their algorithm keep indulging you with it. Same with YouTube, same with Facebook, same with all these big tech companies. So it's just amazing to me that they're like, oh, well, we're going to remove it so people don't post it, don't have a certain silly things popped in their head. It's like, but at the same time, they're going to sit there and indulge you with those very same things. So it's just a weird time, folks. A weird freaking time to live. Great time to live, but also weird. The company also announced that it would prohibit new political, electoral, and social issue ads during the final week before the election. See, the final week before the election, not like kind of months out when certain ads could be displayed or anything. They're just going to make sure they ramp up certain things right before the election happens, kind of makes you sure everything goes dark, just like they did with Joe Biden in the basement. Never heard from the guy. Had like 2 people show up to his campaigns while Trump was filling out arenas. People couldn't get in. You got like 18,000 people still standing outside in the standby line, but somehow Joe Biden won. You guys told me 81 million, 82 million people voted for that guy. That, I mean, it's still that right there. Like, I just wish there'd be some investigative journalism on just that election, just some serious investigation. I know people are into the 2000 mules. There's some problems with that, you guys. Okay. In terms of the systems that they use, the tracking, I love what they're doing. I'm not against it. I think they rushed the video. I think they rushed what they were doing. I think they need to gather more concrete, verifiable evidence, more of it, not just a few things. I think it would have been a lot more better, but I just wish there was more investigation of really what the hell was going on with that. Because if you look at this guy, Joe Biden, you're telling me 82 million people voted for that guy? Really? I have a lot of faith in America. But if that really is the case, where 82 million people voted for a guy that fumbles through his words, can't say a coherent sentence, doesn't know his name, doesn't know his wife's name, doesn't know his staff's name, thinks that he's running for the Senate, thinks that he's vice president multiple times. I mean, that's just a few off the top of my head. Look at the policies, pulls out Afghanistan willy-nilly, thinks inflation is going to be reduced. It's not. Says there's 0% inflation when it's 8.5. I mean, it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Did 82 million people really, really vote for that guy? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe there literally are people that literally hate Donald Trump so bad where they're like, I would rather have a guy that's being puppeted by some deep state people in suits in the United States government that's going to push certain agendas and narratives, whether that's the Great Reset, the Inflation Reduction Act, COVID-19 stimulus checks, all this stuff, climate crisis, rather than having a guy that wants to be pro-American, put America first, do great things, peace in the Middle East, rebuild our military. Maybe that's just where we're at as a country, where literally there's just people that are just willing to vote that way. Is it mind-blowing? Can you wrap your head around it? It is mind-blowing. You cannot wrap your head around it. It just doesn't make sense. Lastly, Meta announced additional policies under the heading Connecting People with Reliable Information. The company touted its continuing future sending notifications to Facebook users with voting information and its partnership with election officials. So it goes on with like, they're investing like $5 million in the fact checking and all this stuff. They're also working with Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and others, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's blasting them for what they said. They're not working with him, but he's blasting them for what they're doing regarding the 2020 election. Remember, you guys, Meta and Facebook was basically not allowing you to post about the Hunter Biden laptop because it was disinformation. And not only was it disinformation, according to them, it was also being classified as misinformation and Russian disinformation, meaning it wasn't real. That's what Facebook was pushing. So this is the people that are going to fact check, be independent fact checkers, be the reliable sources for all of you. But yet they said something that was false about the Hunter Biden laptop. But yet they're the ones that are going to be the strong arm to get free speech out there to all of you to dictate what is truth. I think that speaks for itself, folks. I think it speaks for itself. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.